Welcome, Con.
Okay, Jimmy.
Here we are again.
Yes, we're back again.
Wonderful.
Again. Always good to be here.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So we looked through the hadiths
Yes.
and the Quran,
Yeah.
and we found that the hadiths were not historical.
That's right.
That's where we landed last month.
That's right, we did. And we basically what we did the last couple of videos is we found Torpedo 1, which is the torpedo of eyewitness testimony.
Yes.
We found that there was no eyewitness testimony, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Have I convinced you yet? No eyewitness testimony. So Torpedo 1 scores a direct hit.
Direct hit.
Direct hit. So, and if you want to use a courtroom analogy, then the standard Islamic narrative hypothesis does not explain the evidence. And with our torpedoes, first torpedo, direct hit.
Yeah. What are we looking at? What are we hitting today?
Well, we're hitting today. We're going to hit Mecca.
Yeah. And we talked about Muhammad appearing in the Quran only 4 times. What about Mecca?
Well, interesting you say that. You asked that, Jim, because you'd think that again, look at the Bible. Jerusalem. I haven't done a search, but how many? Jerusalem is all through the New Testament, isn't it? Especially the Gospels. Yeah. Right. It's all the places where Jesus went. Especially the holy city, Jerusalem. Yeah. It's where he was crucified. All that. It was there. It was numbered. I don't know. Possibly hundreds of times.
Sure. Yeah.
If Mecca was where Muhammad was born and the whole thing happened and where he got his first revelations, you'd expect it to be mentioned multiple times, right?
Yeah. So what does the sin claim about Mecca?
Well, no, it's only mentioned the sin. Sorry, the Quran mentions Mecca only one time by name.
Sure.
One time in chapter 48, verse 24. Now, to be fair, there are mentions of what they call the city or the holy city, but that could be anywhere, really.
Okay.
Could even be Jerusalem. Okay, it was a holy city for Arabs. Yeah. But Mecca itself is only mentioned one time by name.
All right. And, what else are the claims about Mecca?
Okay, well, the standard Islamic narrative claims a number of things about Mecca. They call it the mother of all cities. All right. Some traditions, and I won't make too much of this, but because there are some people that talk about some traditions that say that Adam and Eve was there, but I won't go, that's not something I want to. But they do say that it's been around since the time of Abraham, because they say that Abraham went there and he was involved in destroying idols and then building the Kaaba and all that sort of stuff. Sure. So most scholars agree that Abraham was around 2000 BC, 1900 BC. So Mecca, by that claim, should have been around since then. So we're talking 4,000 years ago. Sure. Right? They also claim that Mecca was near Sodom and Gomorrah because the Quran talks about the audience of the Quran, because the Quran is a speaker talking to an audience, passing by Sodom. Each day, right? So it had to be near Sodom and Gomorrah. We know that Sodom and Gomorrah was near the Dead Sea, basically. It talks about Mecca being a major trading centre in the 6th and 7th centuries. Right. Okay, because that's what the sin claims, that Muhammad was a trader, and that's how he, got his reputation, and that's why he ended up getting married to his first wife, because, she wanted somebody to manage her affairs and all of that. And they claimed that Mecca was a major pilgrimage centre by the 6th and 7th centuries. And they claimed that pilgrims would come to the Kaaba and there'd be idols there, and, before Muhammad came, everybody was an idol worshipper. And the Kaaba was a place, full of idols. Right. So that's what the sin claims.
What about archaeological evidence?
Okay. Well, firstly, I'll get to that shortly, but let's ask some questions here. Yeah. Do you reckon that if Mecca had been around for 4,000 years and was a major trading centre, it should have left some kind of footprint, shouldn't it?
Sure. Yeah.
People should have talked about it. It should have, whenever empires or even smaller cities trade with other cities, there are people that, that they write about it. They make inscription, they write graffiti about it. It's mentioned somewhere. Yeah. Right? So you asked about archaeological evidence. Okay, well, there's a lot of archaeological evidence from Arabia, and more is being discovered all the time.
Right.
Okay, because the Bedouins find these inscriptions and they tell the academics and they go out there and they catalogue them. All right. There's a guy named Ahmed Al-Jalad who's an expert in pre-Islamic Arabian inscriptions, and he'll become really important in our discussion when we move to Muhammad. But they found, I'll break it up into sort of three areas.
Yeah.
You got Northwest Arabia, okay, which is sort of where Petra and Madain Saleh and closer to Jordan.
Yeah.
So there are kingdoms that were from those areas. The kingdom of Kedar, the kingdom of Dedan. Dedan's actually mentioned in the Bible, in the Old Testament. The kingdom of Timar, the kingdom of Lycia, the Nabateans. Okay, made their inscriptions, and so did the Talmudians. Now, here's the thing. None of those people mention Mecca in their inscriptions. None of them. Okay, we've got archaeology from East Arabia, which is what's now Bahrain and Oman, and these were the kingdoms of Kinda, the kingdoms of Dilmun, and the kingdom of Magan.
Yeah.
South Arabia, okay, you also had people because East Arabia and South Arabia were fertile. Right, the middle of Arabia, where Mecca and Medina, was all desert.
Right. Yeah.
North Arabia had rivers and fertile as well. Again, there'll be a clue there for one of our later podcasts. There was no water down there.
Sure.
No water means no people. All right. But South Arabia's got water, and there are kingdoms of Main, Kotaban, Saba, the Sabaeans, where we get them, and the Queen of Sheba was from Saba. Okay, Solomon. The kingdom of Himyar. All right. As a matter of fact, the Himyarites had a kingdom in the 6th century. They were Jewish. And there's actually an inscription that's very famous that we'll get to again when we talk about our thing of Muhammad. But there is no mention of Mecca in any of the inscriptions or any of the artifacts from those people.
Okay.
So bottom line is, none of the people around Mecca wrote about Mecca.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's a big red flag.
Sure. Yeah. What about the empires around Mecca?
Okay. Well, that's a good question, Jim, because Arabia has been a bit of a plaything for empires, since empires were empires, right? Yeah. The first big empire was the Assyrians. Actually, the Egyptians before them, but the Egyptians never really made it, into Arabia, the center of Arabia. But the Assyrians took control of Arabia from about the 8th century BC. And they write about, in their inscriptions, and the Assyrian kings wrote these stelae. A stele is like a column with stuff written on it, and tablets. And they mention kings and queens of the Arabs. Yeah. Okay? But there's no mention of Mecca. Right? Then we got the Babylonians. Okay, the Babylonians conquered, took over the Assyrian Empire, and by the 7th century BC. And then we've got Nebuchadnezzar conquering Jerusalem, if you remember from the Bible. Yeah. Okay, and then they take the Jews to Babylon, and then we've got Belshazzar and all of that. Well, interestingly, the uncle, actually I can double check, but I think it's the uncle of Belshazzar, either Nebuchadnezzar's brother or his cousin, Nabonidus. He had a palace at Timar, and remember from North Arabia, I mentioned that. So he actually had a palace at Timar. So they knew about Arabia. Okay, they took control of Arabia, and the Babylonians actually mention Yathrib, which is Medina. So they mentioned Yathrib. So they couldn't, it's not that they never went into the area where Mecca is, the Hijaz, because they mentioned Medina. Yeah. But there's no mention of Mecca. All right. Following the Babylonians, the Persians, as we read about, the Persians defeated the Babylonians by the 5th century, and they made alliances with the Arabs. But again, do you reckon, let me ask you this, Jim. Do you think the Persians made any mention of Mecca? Trick question. So far, based on what I've said so far? No. Again, surprise, surprise, no mention of Mecca. Well, after the Persians, we had the Romans. The Romans, under the general Gallus, basically led an expedition into Arabia in 23 BC. And he went all through West and South Arabia, looking at cities. He even occupied the city of Najran, which is, on the Western Plateau, where Medina is. The Romans make no mention of Mecca. All right? So you've got all of these great powers that have occupied, Arabia from the 8th century BC. Yeah. And remember, Mecca's supposed to have been around since since 2000 BC,
Sure.
but yet none of them mention it. I mean, to me, that is a real...
It's a red flag.
It is a red flag, isn't it? It smells a bit, doesn't it? Like in terms academically, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And as I said, if Mecca was... the city claims that Mecca was a major trading centre. Well, the Romans would have traded with them.
Yeah.
And they would have written about it. Okay, so at the end of the day, there's no archaeological evidence from in and around Arabia that supports the existence of Mecca in the 6th and 7th centuries.
Okay. So you talked about archaeological evidence. Is there more information about that?
Well, there is some archaeological evidence from Mecca itself, but the problem is it's very sparse.
Right.
Now you might be wondering why is that, right? Well, the challenge is that as a non-Muslim, Muslims are not allowed to go to Mecca. So, do you think then that independent archaeologists from, say, the University of whatever, who are, they might even be atheists, but they're not Muslims, would they be allowed in to do digs?
No.
No, they're not, right? So the Muslims can say, we found this, they say they found the Prophet's house, they say they found Khadija's house.
Right.
But none of that's verifiable. Now, remember last time we talked about empirical claims and faith claims?
Yeah.
Is that an empirical claim or is that a faith claim? They found all those houses.
Just faith claims.
Faith claim, okay. The other problem we got is that they're now building there's a lot of building activity in Mecca, and they're sort of, they may have already done it, but the 4th highest building in the world, the massive clock tower, is going to go there. Now, if you've got a building that's the 4th highest building in the world, it's going to be quite high, right? So its foundations, do they have to go deep or shallow?
Deep.
Very deep. So you've got to dig. A lot of digging. So you would expect that they'd find stuff, right? But they're concreting everything. So they're digging and they're concreting it.
Right.
Can't be verified.
Yeah.
So you see it's hard to find evidence from Mecca. And despite that, they haven't found anything. I'm going to give you a quote from an archaeologist, Dan Gibson, who's written a lot of books about Jordanian archaeology. And he's also written a book called the Quranic Geography. So he knows what he's talking about. So he says this quote, "In 2002, I had the opportunity to visit the second conference on Nabatean studies held in Petra, Jordan, and organised by the Al Hussein bin Talal University. During the conference, I had occasion to speak with several leading Jordanian and Saudi archaeologists. I asked them specifically about the archaeological record in and around Mecca. While not wishing to be quoted or named publicly, which is not surprising, they being the archaeologists, the Saudi archaeologists, admitted that the archaeological record of Mecca was basically non-existent before 900 CE, in other words, 900 AD, non-existent before the 10th century. I had expected them to defend the opinion that ancient Mecca was a walled city with houses, gardens, public buildings and temples. They shook their heads and said there was nothing like that there. When construction began on the Abraj al-Bayt, complex of 7 skyscrapers in Mecca in 2004, I mentioned that before, there was a stir of interest in the archaeological community wondering what the construction might reveal about the ruins under Mecca. In the end, the only ruins that were disturbed was that of an 18th century Ottoman Ajad fortress. There truly was no great city under Mecca."
Interesting.
So now, to be fair, I want to present all of the evidence. There was an inscription found near Mecca, placed on the road to Taif. It's about 70 km from Mecca. I believe that inscription has now been destroyed. I could be wrong about that, but I believe it's no longer with us, but we've got photos of it. It's been dated to AD 697. And the inscription says that it was written in the year that the Masjid al-Haram was built. Now, Jim, you might be wondering, what the heck is the Masjid al-Haram? Okay. Well, that's an Arabic term for the forbidden place of worship, the forbidden place of bowing. And Muslims usually equate the Masjid al-Haram with the Kaaba. Okay, the building where the black stone is. So, can you see a problem? It's saying that it was built in 697 AD.
After. Yeah, not 2000 BC.
Not 2000 BC, right? That's exactly right. And, that's 60 years after the death of Muhammad. So if there was a religious sanctuary in Mecca, this inscription suggested that it was not built until AD 697.
Yeah.
Now, the last piece of evidence that I want to present is that of the coins.
Sure, yeah.
Now, okay, remember, what's one of the claims about Mecca? The claim, remember the sin claims about Mecca? That it was 2000 BC. Yeah. It was a religious sanctuary, but what else?
Of trade. It was a place of trade.
It was a place of trade. So what do people use for trade?
Yeah. Well, coins.
Coins. Money, right?
Sure.
So by the 7th century, we can actually trace where the coins were minted. Right? So do you think would you expect there'd be coins minted in Mecca if it was a major trading centre?
Yeah.
You would, wouldn't you? Okay. And a lot of these coins have the dates on them, or who minted them.
Sure.
So we can trace that, we can date them by the reign of that particular ruler, right? Well, what we find is that there are two groups of mints. There are mints in the West, like in modern-day Syria, Lebanon, Israel.
Yeah.
And there's another group of mints in modern-day Iran and Iraq. But there are no mints in between, where Hijaz, where Mecca and Medina are. Now, by the 7th century, by 661 at least, okay, and by 685, which is when Abdul Malik was the caliph, that whole area was under the control of Muslims or Arabs.
Sure.
According to the Sin, it was under the control of Muslims. And the Sin says that Abu Bakr, Uthman, and so Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali ruled from Mecca and Medina.
Oh.
Right? So if they ruled, how did they do business without coins?
Sure.
They must have. So you would expect coins from Mecca and Medina, but we don't get any. All right? The first time we get coins from Mecca that minted in Mecca is in AD 822 and 823. What's the problem with that?
Okay, that's 300 or 200 years after.
That's right. Muhammad dies in 632. That's nearly 200 years later. That's a 9th century, right? During the reign of a caliph called Al-Mamun. Now, interestingly, I won't jump the gun a little bit, but it does fit. That date does fit with, there was an aqueduct, there was a queen, Al-Zubaydah, who had to build an aqueduct because there was no water servicing the pilgrims of Mecca that were going there because there's no town there.
Yeah.
Okay, so she had to build an aqueduct, and that was built in AD 801. So can you see a picture?
Okay.
Something was beginning to emerge by the 9th century.
Yeah.
There was something there in Mecca by the 9th century. Maybe it was built in 697 like that inscription said, something really small.
Yeah.
It grew and grew and grew.
Sure.
Okay. And so then they needed coins and then they needed an aqueduct. But there wasn't something there in the 7th century, or at least in the early 7th century. There certainly wasn't something there, in my opinion, in the 6th century. Yeah. And let me ask you this, Jim. Do you think there was something there in 2000 BC when Abraham was around?
Highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely. So let me conclude that there's no mention of Mecca in the archaeological record before the 9th century. What it suggests is that Mecca may not have even existed in the 7th century. Yeah. But I'm willing to give the Muslims the benefit of the doubt. Even if there was something there in the 7th century, was it a major trading centre?
No.
No. Had it been around since the time of Adam and Eve?
No.
No. Okay. Was it the mother of all cities?
No.
No. So the bottom line is that the archaeological evidence doesn't support the standard Islamic narrative. Yeah. So we fired torpedo 2 at the Sin, at Mecca. So what do you think, Jim? Have we scored a direct hit?
Sounds like a direct hit.
Sounds like a direct hit.
Interesting, yeah.
So that's, so basically the Sin doesn't support, the archaeological evidence doesn't support the Sin. If we go back to a courtroom analogy as well, sorry, your hypothesis fails to explain that evidence. Our hypothesis that the Sin is not true, does that explain the evidence? we're claiming that the sin is not true.
Yeah, that explains the evidence.
So you see, our hypothesis works. Theirs doesn't. And that's what we're going to do through this. We're going to test their hypothesis versus our hypothesis. So far, we're ahead.
Yeah. Cool. All right, that was good.
Thanks, man.
Wonderful. All right, what are we talking about next?
Well, next we're going to fire torpedo 3 at Mecca. We're going to look at, it's going to be a relatively short one, okay? We're going to look at, is there any written evidence from written sources, okay, as to about Mecca?
Okay.
And we'll see what we find.
All right. Wonderful. Till next time then.
That's fantastic.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
All right.